As we know, MH370 was a scheduled international passenger flight that took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport on the morning of March 8, 2014. The plane, a Boeing 77, was carrying around 239 passengers and crew, including people from 14 different countries. The flight was expected to take around 6 hours and was due to arrive in Beijing at 6:30 a.m. local time. However, just an hour into the flight at 1:19 a.m., the plane's transponder, which transmits the plane's location, altitude and speed, was switched off. Despite attempts to communicate with the plane, it disappeared from radar and no distress signal was received. Numerous search efforts have been launched to find the missing plane, but it still remains one of the greatest aviation mysteries of all time. The search for MH370 has been one of the most extensive and expensive in aviation history, with search efforts spanning over 100,000 square miles of ocean, but it has yet to find any trace of the plane. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, various theories have been put forward to explain the disappearance of MH370. The search was initially focused on the region where the plane went missing, but new information came to light. Military radar, which uses reflectance to track targets, revealed that after last contact with MH370, it deviated from its planned flight path. The aircraft flew back across the Malaysian peninsula, made a turn near the Penang Island and continued on a northwesterly heading until it went out of the radar's coverage. The actual flight path of MH370 after it left radar coverage is unknown. However, the believed path the flight took during its final hours is based on mathematical calculations and assumptions made by measuring satellite communications terminal on board the flight. Before departure, the SATCOM terminal logged onto the satellite network and established a connection with a ground station in Perth, Australia. The station in Perth kept detailed records of all incoming and outgoing traffic between it and Flight 370. Investigators used the data from the satellite communications between MH370 and the Inmarsat satellite to determine the possible location of the plane at the time of each transmission. By taking into account factors such as speed and fuel consumption, they were able to narrow down the possible location of the plane when the final transmission was sent. The analysis suggested that the most likely location of the crash was along a particular arc in the southern Indian Ocean known as the 7th Arc. The theory that MH370 crashed in the western region of Australia is based on the analysis of satellite and radar data, as well as examination of debris found on the coast of Africa and on the islands on the Indian Ocean, such as Madagascar and Reunion, revealed that it was consistent with the type of debris that would be expected from a crash in the southern Indian Ocean. One of the theories that have been proposed is that the plane experienced a mechanical failure. However, the fact that the transponder was switched off and that the plane continued to fly for several hours afterwards suggests that this theory is unlikely. During the final hours, 2 attempts were made from the ground to contact the airplane via satellite telephone. Although the calls were acknowledged by the SATCOM system and were expected to be routed to the cockpit, they went unanswered. This discovery led to a formulation of a new theory. There were some who speculated that the 2 pilots had lost consciousness due to a failed attempt to pressurize the air in the cockpit. This was put forward as a possible explanation for the lack of response from the airplane over the course of several hours. However, this explanation was discredited by the fact that the plane had made 3 unexpected turns at these positions, which could only have been performed by a human operator. The autopilot system was not capable of executing these maneuvers without being programmed to do so by someone with the appropriate knowledge. The investigation shifted its focus towards the flight's captain, Sahari Ahmad Shah, as the primary suspect. The plane made 2 unusual turns to the left. According to experts, one of the turns was towards Sahari's hometown of Penang, and this maneuver may have been a way of saying goodbye before heading northwest towards the Indian Ocean. According to pilot and aviation expert Simon Harvey, the disappearance of Flight 370 was a planned mass murder. He quoted, "He deliberately zigzagged along the border between Thai and Malaysian airspace to evade detection and avoid action from respective countries' air traffic controllers. If you were to ask me to make a 777 disappear, I would do exactly the same. I spent a long time considering technical possibilities, and after 2 or 3 months, I arrived at an answer. Someone was looking out the window." During the investigation, authorities found a flight simulator in the captain's home. They discovered deleted data on the hard drive that showed 7 coordinates. Connecting these coordinates revealed a similar flight path to the one believed to have been taken, leading some to suspect premeditation. But uncertainty remained, as it was unclear whether the coordinates were from separate flight sessions. The Royal Malaysia Police forensic examination ultimately did not find conclusive evidence of premeditation related to the incident, and simply concluded, "No activity captured conclusively indicate any kind of premeditated act pertaining to the incident of MH370. After his disappearance, Sahari's friends and family members came forward to portray him as an amiable and helpful family man who enjoyed his work and was very passionate about aviation, and also enjoyed making instructional YouTube videos for do-it-yourself projects. This characterization does not align with the typical profile of a mass murderer. According to the factual information report, it confirms that he had good stress management skills at work and home, with no history of apathy, anxiety or irritability. There were no significant changes in his lifestyle or family relationships that could have played a role in his disappearance. With over 18,000 hours of flight time under his belt, Sahari was a highly respected and experienced pilot who had been with Malaysia Airlines since 1981. Farik Abdul Hamid, the co-pilot, was considered to be even less remarkable. He was only 27 years old and was engaged to a fellow pilot. Although he had nearly 3,000 hours of flight experience, he had only flown this particular aircraft type for 39 hours. Similar to Sahari, there was no significant issues regarding Farik's financial, mental or personal circumstances. The implication is that both pilots had full knowledge of the scheme to make the plane undetectable and fly it off course, which strengthens the theory of their potential involvement. On the contrary, it is challenging to find any substantial evidence that will cast doubt on the integrity of either of the two pilots. If Captain Sahari intentionally crashed the plane into the ocean, his motive and fate of the co-pilot continued to be shrouded in mystery. In contrast to crash of Germanwings 9525, the co-pilot waited for the captain to take a bathroom break before securing the cockpit door and began diving into the French Alps, leaving no survivors. While some have suggested that the hijacking of Flight 370 may have been politically motivated due to pilot Sahari's known support of a democratic opposition leader who had recently been sentenced to 5 years in prison prior to departure, nevertheless, it is essential to recognize that this theory remains entirely speculative. To date, no concrete evidence has been uncovered to substantiate this claim. The discovery that 2 passengers had boarded the flight using stolen passports raised concerns among investigators. However, their investigation did not establish any connections between the individuals and terrorism. Subsequently, it was uncovered that the men had used fake identities to travel because they were seeking asylum in Europe rather than any harmful intentions. Although their actions were illegal, they did not endanger the safety of the flight or its passengers. In addition to these theories, some have suggested that MH370 may have been shot down by the military, but this theory was deemed unreliable since no burn marks were found on the examined debris. This also discredited the theory that a fire had broken out mid-flight. With so many theories attempting to explain its disappearance, one of the latest theories to emerge is that the flight made a controlled water landing, which could account for the lack of burn marks and signs of an explosion, as well as the absence of wreckage at the suspected crash site. It is possible that the plane may have floated and then sunk elsewhere, making it more difficult to locate. Moreover, it is worth noting that the underwater search operation never reached this far. Additionally, it is crucial to emphasize that this region of the Indian Ocean is exceptionally isolated, with a 6-day journey just to reach it. Flight 370 was like any other airplane equipped with a flight data recorder, commonly referred to as a black box, which transmit pings to help locate its location. These pings were detected at depths of 3,000 meters. However, despite spending weeks scanning the seafloor, search efforts were unsuccessful in locating the aircraft. As we conclude our investigation into the disappearance of MH370, we are left with more questions than answers. What happened to the plane? Where did it go? And most importantly, why? Unless the final resting place of Flight 370 can be found, the cause of its disappearance may remain a mystery forever.